Hello, and welcome again to the 555 here every Sunday, reliably. I think if you're an autistic group, the reliability of knowing that we will always be there is one of the important things that matters to us. There's just one thing to talk about in our open meeting this week, and in some ways it is quite important. We have experienced a rather beautiful decision-making process. We had to make a decision about one of our contributors. They made a lovely podcast with us. They said interesting things. They taught us stuff. But they didn't feel quite prepared to have the episode published. And that's within their own choice. When we make edits with people, we give people the option, once the edit has been made, to then decide whether they should continue and accept the edits or if they want some changes. If we don't edit the person at all, then they have already given permission when we record. We're not taking them out of context and we're not changing what they say, so they're in entire control during the process of what they say. So when this person contacted us to say that they didn't want to have their episode published, we had to make a decision. So we put it out to the group. I asked for help, and it was really lovely for me. As I said, a beautiful process of people thinking really carefully about the situation, coming back with different versions of advice, and that makes me feel as though we're getting things right here. Having a group of people making the decision and informing what we do is so much more valuable than a group led by somebody. And maybe that's the autistic way. Maybe we can work in a more cooperative way if we are producing our own organisation without the hierarchy. So, thank you everybody. I really appreciated the support, the intelligence, and the thoughtfulness of you all. That's all I have to say, Harry. Do you want to take it away for the 555?
Thanks, Jules. Hello, everyone. This is Harry's Facebook for Sunday, the 5th of October 2025. And this is where we discuss the Facebook posts that have been shared on the Autistic Radio Facebook page. And the first post for today is from Autistic Inclusive Meets USA, who are a non-profit organisation. Inclusive Meets is a non-profit organisation created by autistic people to enable autistic individuals and their families to get out into the community and socialise in an accepting environment in the USA. And what they've shared is the following. If you host or participate in a group that talks about autism and or autistic people, it's ableist and discriminatory to exclude autistics from joining and participating in the conversations. What's people's thoughts on that?
I would say if you make something up and then it doesn't work because you've gone to people with what you've made up and it's not really a a viable solution for them, you're going to fail. So it's better to talk to us and get it right first time.
I'm just wondering what this is relating to. Is it relating to so-called autistic experts, which we've talked about a lot in the past? They call themselves experts because it's their job, it's in their field, so they think they have the expertise and the knowledge, which is impossible to have, in fairness, but they think they've got that. So they kind of have patronising, stereotypical kind of conversations without any input from autistic people. Or is it regards to there's some groups, some organisations that it's carers and parents of people who are autistic, and it's like a support group within each other, and more often than not won't have any participation from autistic people, particularly if it's young children. I'm just wondering what this is relating to. It may be the former.
Yeah, I agree with you, Harry. It's short, it's sweet, but there's no framework here, is there? I can imagine situations where different groups, like you say, parents or need to get together to discuss their lived experience of being a family member. It's not all about us. I have to say that in general, I would say that, yes, autistic people have to be included in things. But there's reasons why people want to discuss their own experiences. And that could be with autism as part of the subject matter. So when they say nothing about us without us, surely there are some times where people need to get together and share their own experiences. Is it ableist? Not sure. Maybe that's a bit throwing petrol on the fire on social media.
I suppose that's true if it's a closed group. But maybe this comment was made after some experience where an autistic individual or more than one was invited to one of these groups and then somehow it didn't work out.
It's that sort of being inclusive, but is there a need to be so-called inclusive? And I don't mean to say so-called as a patronising and insulting way. It's like some things need to have a sort of closed group. And many autistic groups and organisations do that as well. It's like autistic people only. This is our space. You can't come in for safe purposes, for what they're about. So I do get the gist of it, but it seems rather limited. But maybe it's the start of a conversation and not the conclusion. So, but I did find it very interesting.
I think I'm just sick of the word ableism being thrown out at any possibility. It's almost as though somebody has that word ready, cocked, loaded to accuse people of, and it's not helpful.
The post itself is 5 years old, but it was shared today. So I would imagine that the feeling amongst many people is the same. But you are right that the word ableist, it's like a lot of words get thrown around, good and bad. It's like a word that's just been discovered or a word that comes in handy to weaponise to suit some people's agendas. So it can be used in a way which isn't helpful because it just seems limited in what people are trying to say when using that particular word, because ableism is a big deal and it has been discussed at length how ableism is and how it affects autistic people and other people. So yeah, I get your point there, Jules.
There's an interesting comment from a texter here. In the 80s, I used to go to gay bars, and I'm a straight man, but I wanted to meet gay people. Now, in the modern world, it doesn't seem necessary to go to a gay bar to meet gay people because you can meet gay people in other circumstances.
Another text says being spoken over is a big deal. Yep, I can relate to that. Trying to speak, trying to give your point across, your experience across, but being spoken over, maybe patronisingly, or even just authoritatively, like bullying even. So, yes, I can believe that. I've probably experienced it myself sometime.
Maybe what the poster is experiencing, or has experienced, is a situation where non-autistic people set up groups to discuss autism that propose that they include autistic people. But in the end, the format of those groups make autistic people uncomfortable or difficult to join in on an equal level, and so they become non-autistic exclusive groups. We've seen professionals attempting to create groups for autistic people, and my experience has always been that when they're led by non-autistic people, they are of very little value for me. It's only the autistic groups led by autistic people, involving autistic people, that make sense to me. But I'm sure those other people have to have their meetings somewhere.
The reason I'm interested in this post is something I've said before, and it is that I'm, since my diagnosis for a year and a bit, I've been on a waiting list to go to a group. It'll happen one time and one time only, and it will be with other late diagnosed autistic people in the Toronto area, put on by the hospital where my diagnosis was made. At the same time, someone at the hospital asked me if I would be willing to go to a group put on by that hospital for parents who have just learned that their child has been diagnosed. And the last time we talked about it, we talked about the good. The good would be that, they could meet a person who lived their life in many ways successfully. But that one's a double whammy because it's organized by non-autistic people and it's for non-autistic people. And I'm sure I have quite a while before my number comes up to go, but I feel concerned about it.
Teresa, does your post-diagnosis group have any kind of online facility for you to communicate?
Nothing. There are some that are expensive, but I think they're just a pipeline for, like they say, to come to it. But I think it's, for a business or a psychologist or something who specializes in autistic people. So it seems just sort of like the gateway to become a paid client.
Just thinking here. Talk about my parents and how they would talk about me and my autism. And with all the kindness and the fairness in the world, I don't think that I would be particularly comfortable in sitting, listening to how they describe it. Because I've heard it be described before as, you're unwell, you've got something wrong. And none of that has been said in a way to be insulting. It's more about caring and want to look after me. And of course, as time went on, and as because at first I was totally in agreement with them because of the situation I was diagnosed in the first place. But as time went on and pride grows and confidence grows, it's like it's not something I would want to hear. So if they wanted to talk about autism without me being there, I don't know why they would want to do that, but if they did, I wouldn't be insulted if I wasn't invited. Then I'm talking about someone that's confident. I'm talking about someone that's confident within oneself and understanding that there has to be somewhere else for people to talk about the thing that you are, but how it affects somebody else. Although it does seem, even me saying that, it does seem kind of touchy and quite, I'm pushing it here, but it's a fair point. It's kind of been said by Jules already. It's like somewhere else talking about it doesn't mean that it's out to ridicule or patronise. It's just a sort of safe space to talk, especially as I'm not a parent. So it's like parents or people talking to each other just for advice or just talking for comfort or whatever, because things like that are needed for people in many different circumstances. The next post is from Diversity Doodles, which is a personal blog. Doodles that, with your help, aim to spread messages about neurodiversity that I'd like the world to understand. Thank you for help making it happen. And they've shared the following. The opposite of exclusion isn't inclusion if inclusion doesn't also mean belonging. It's not about trying to stop people feeling different. It is about teaching how those differences also belong. Most people's thoughts. The reason that I shared this one, because obviously exclusion and inclusion are words that jump out to me. but the word belonging actually feels more powerful. Feeling that you belong somewhere is who you are. And I've had many situations where I felt finally that I felt I belonged, like autism support group or social group it was, many years ago. And I've talked about this before, but it's like having conversations and the understanding of talking about your experiences people can sort of identify with. You're all different, but people can identify what you're talking about, and you're not being talked down like, right, that's enough. Stop being hard on yourself, or don't talk silly, or whatever. It was like people actually saying, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I think I've had that experience too. And that sense of belonging somewhere and feeling that you don't have to mask or tone your personality down in fear of being ridiculed or criticised. It's, the belonging thing is a big deal.
Being accepted or having a big important part of me socialising is what makes all the difference.
This could even be true in relationships with individuals, small groups, family groups, not just. I'm not sure if this post is referring to formalized larger groups, but I've already said this before, but my sister wanted me to be part of her very large wedding party, and it was an extremely social situation. And she made these accommodations way back at the time that she was, we were in our 20s. She's doing this purely on instinct. But I think I told you that there were 2 limousines full of the people in the wedding party. I think her wedding party was the photograph made it look like we were in an orchestra. But I was put in the front to sit with the limousine driver quietly because it was going to be too raucous for me in the back. And at the time, I think I wondered why this was happening, and now I think it was a kindness and a way of including me in something that would have been just too much.
Yeah, I noticed the word tolerance in the further text that's on screen.
Yes, the supporting information, following up information on that post. It says, the opposite of exclusion isn't simply inviting someone to join in or take part. It is creating conditions which allow them to do so. The opposite of exclusion isn't simply inviting someone to join or take part if they have to hide who they are in order to be able to. The opposite of exclusion isn't inclusion if inclusion is only tolerance. Inclusion is often just imagined as the opposite of exclusion. You've been invited. You are allowed to join in. So why aren't you here? Inclusion is too often imagined as creating conditions so that differences aren't noticed or cannot be easily identified. and that's celebrated as a win. But I wish this was seen in a different light. Inclusion is not the opposite of exclusion under these circumstances. Inclusion is not about adapting simply so that differences are unrecognisable. Inclusion is only the opposite of exclusion if it fosters a sense of true, authentic belonging. Inclusion isn't about erasing differences, nor teaching those who are different to fit in and adapt. It's about teaching that differences are inherent to everyone, some more divergent than others, and that they are equally valid. Inclusion isn't about trying to stop people feeling different, but teaching how those differences belong, how they are equally valuable, equally visible, equally accepted and welcome, easily accepted and welcomed, equal parts of the inclusive whole. Most people's thoughts.
Yeah, you don't have to include me. I'll include you.
This sort of reminds me of like a school or somewhere. It's like someone who wouldn't normally include you within them playing or talking or whatever, but they feel, no, let's invite, it's a shame. He's standing over there himself. Let's invite Harry in to this conversation or to this kind of play or game or whatever. But don't act strange. Don't be daft. Just kind of follow the sort of kind of unwritten rule which is so-called normal in children's play. So that is in one way I can identify with this.
The Scots have many words for us, don't they, Harry? Just a word came to mind there that is, equivalent to, a period in Indian history.
Yeah, I've been called many names. I've been called mad, weird, or a square. And that's three terms I've come up with, without any kind of swearing. Yeah, sometimes the insults are great. I mean, my favourite one is ginger nuts.
My mate used to have a phrase, born the bam, lived the raj, died a sap.
The next post is from Robbie Proser. And he shared the following. While some people will claim that all autistic people have a deficit in social skills, I would disagree. I consider that I have different social skills. Unlike some autistic people, I don't like being on my own. I struggle when I face long periods of time without seeing or speaking to anyone. Some social environment I struggle in, but others I thrive in. The things that make the difference: having common interests with other people, Many of the official support service are built around remits of age groups, diagnosis and gender. This is usually why they fail for me. I often cannot find a common ground to build a meaningful relationship. Often in this environment, I face accusations of not trying hard enough. Even if I was asked anyone in the room that what they were interested in, if I don't find common ground, I will struggle. While some people can effectively mask their autistic traits, there are some of my autistic traits I have never been able to mask. I can't pretend to be happy. I can't hide when I am bored. If I'm bored, my mind will just wander. I will feel uncomfortable and I will end up leaving. Much of the year after leaving school, I went to college. I always enjoyed learning languages, and I used to enjoy making pottery. The reason I stopped was when it became too expensive. I studied German, French, and Italian. In my mid-20s, I took up to play guitar. I first started at Wisbech Folk Club about 2009. About 2009, I started attending open mics. At first, I went to local open mics in Wisbech, St Mary, and Otwell with my parents. After my father's death, I bought myself a traveller guitar so I could continue playing guitar at open mics. I now travel around open mic and music jams around Cambridgeshire, Norfolk, and Suffolk. I now travel around the open mic and music jams around Cambridgeshire. I now travel around the open mic around Cambridgeshire, Norfolk, and Suffolk. Not long after I moved, I joined a choir, Sing Out Cambridge. After I lost Dad, I realised I might not have a garden after I moved, so I joined an archery club. Although I've had an injury, I'm hoping to rejoin the club. I have also started crochet. Even before I moved, I travelled to a craft group in Cambridge. I later started to go to another craft group and a walking group. I regularly take part in open mics, music jams, and acoustic sessions if the following places, weather permitting: Community Centre Wisbech St Mary, Village Hall Upwell, Lamb and Flag Welney, Duncow Christchurch, Plough and Harrow Littleport, Six Bells Fulbourn, Five Bells Burwell, and the Carlton Arms Arbory, and occasionally the Bell Denver, Hudson's, Ella House, Chompington. I would take part in performances with Sing Out Challenge at Cambridge Pride twice, Cambridge Alternative Pride, and Mill Road Winter Fair. Not bad for someone who is supposed to have a deficit in social skills. What's your thoughts? This includes photographs as well of Robbie playing the music.
Well, I'm sure in the edit there won't be the list that we've just heard that this autistic person is managing to use to fulfill their time, to pass on their art, to be part of a community. It's a long list of different events that this person takes part in, and it's the opposite of the stereotypes that go with autism. This person is reaching out, getting out there, and entertaining people. It's a lovely thing. We should look at these strengths and just say, yes, autistic people have strengths.
I think what it demonstrates strongly, to put it bluntly, that autistic people have a life. They can do things, they can go places, they can learn skills, they can socialise when comfortable. Although when you think about it, everybody socialises when comfortable, surely, or at least they prefer to. It's like, it's something positive that has to be shared again, because a lot of the stuff that we talk about and share, in fairness, because of what's out there, is the sort of negative side of autism. Not just because of autism being misunderstood, but the people who are autistic feel that their lives aren't as great as it should be. It feels limited. They feel they can't do anything, or certainly very limited in what they can do, because either being told that or it's just lack of confidence. So I like sharing stuff like this because it just shows, it's so inspirational. And even though that's not the sort of thing that I do, music, but it's very inspirational to me that this can be done, and it's very heartwarming.
The point Robbie makes there really clearly is that autistic people are social. They're social in the situations that suit them. They're a musician. They are sociable with the other musicians, they're social with the audience, and they're out there. And the other thing it illustrates is that this person has had a huge change in their lives, but they haven't just sat down and let it all happen to them. They've gone out there and looked for things. They've adapted. They've found a travelling guitar that they can stick on their back and stick on a motorbike to go to gigs. We are out there. We're doing things. I take my hat off to Robbie.
And so do I. And at the same time, wherever Robbie needs support, none of this sociability should take away for his deservedness of the support that he requires.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's that situation as well as sometimes, see if you're enjoying life too much, well, not too much, see if you're just enjoying life and you're happy, it just seems sometimes that there's this guilt that's put upon you as how can you be so happy if you need support? I know it sounds stupid, but it makes sort of sense. It's like, see when you require support, or you're saying you require support, but you seem to enjoy a bit of life, it's like, well, you're doing okay. Why do you need any support? Look, you're out there doing your thing. You're comfortable. You're happy. And it's like when it comes to when you need support, it's like, why do you need it? Life's all full of ups and downs. Just accept it. Which really gets in my nerves. The attitude out there can be appalling for many people, particularly people who are autistic as well, because of the lack of understanding. So that's why I find these sort of posts very inspirational. But also, it makes clear that there's good days and bad days, but there's a lot of good days. The next post is from my own blog, Inspired Mind, Harry's blog. And it's marking 25 years since I've been involved in community work. It's talking about 25 years since I started becoming involved in community work. And it's the following. And it says the following. This month marks 25 years since I started a community work journey without realising it at the time. I was 19 years old, 2 years after a health crisis brought an autistic diagnosis, and following 2 years in college after reluctantly leaving school. My confidence was low, and despite the support of a very loving family, I had no clear direction. An invitation out of the blue to the local mental health forum meeting changed everything. The meeting was an annual general meeting looking for new members, and I was elected part of their committee. It didn't click right away, but it was an interesting experience. Listening, learning, adjusting, confidence building. Within 2 years, I was a secretary, confident of taking minutes. Within 5 years, I was a chairperson, confident of speaking publicly. It wasn't always plain sailing, but it worked. It worked so well that I joined more committees and a structure was created. I've been in some sort of committee since, either a volunteer organisation or community group ever since. That's what life is all about. Finding a journey, your journey. Harry. What's Jules' thoughts?
It's not necessary to go the conventional route in the world. So many times people are put under pressure to value themselves only by paid work. And I understand the position paid work has. But there are opportunities out there in volunteering, in community work, that make an autistic person a valuable pivot in those groups. So when we feel we're excluded in some places, finding the right place that includes us can be a way around this. And I see what you're saying here, Harry, about this long history of contributing to your community, your society, and also experiencing the self-esteem that comes from that. Too often we're encouraged to think that we're less than. And one of the ways to prove we're not is to be out there, if we can get the spoons to do it. And if I look to the texters, one of the important ones here, it says that it's about finding meaning and purpose. And meaning and purpose is found in unconventional places. We speak often about autistic groups, and that's one way. If you have them in your area, if you don't have them in your area, starting one is a way of working it through. If that's too much, then other alternatives like volunteering for St John's or volunteering for the other organisations. It will bring you into contact with other people and give you that practice. It's all a challenge. I find everything in my life a challenge, but the more challenges that I have put myself towards and given myself the opportunity of, the more often I find that the next challenge is less of a challenge. Taking control of our own destinies and finding ways through that are unconventional is the autistic way, surely.
This is a really great example, a lot like Robbie's, of finding the thing you're thriving at and doing so well. And in the photograph, and for anybody who's just going to be listening to it, you look so confident and pleased and comfortable.
What I liked about the experience was, we just talked about it earlier in this broadcast, was finding a place, finding belonging. And what I said in the blog, was accurate in terms of it didn't click right away. Basically what it was is I went to this kind of social support groups, the mental health services provide, the places where you go to somewhere like a church hall for a couple of hours, drinking tea and coffee and biscuits and, talking with people, as a social setting, a safe space, because as we know about mental health, autism's got that as well, but people that have been through the mental health services, society, is very prejudiced with people, going through certain things mental health wise. Mental illness is just looked upon, even to this day, in a very prejudiced way. So it's a safe space for people to go to without being judged, just sit and have a chat about general things, just somewhere to go. And for many people, like myself at one point, just to get out of the house. And it was just an opportunity that came from one of the people that ran the group. The group was run kind of jointly between the NHS and the local authority. And it was a local authority kind of social worker who was taking a turn that week. It was every Tuesday, and they took a week at a time. Started talking about a mental health forum. Do you want to go? And because I had nothing else on, I thought I might as well go. And it was like taking a chance. It was like, I'm not going to be comfortable here, but it's something to do. Somebody's given an opportunity, so give it a go. If I don't like it, just don't ever do it again. So I went to it, and it was quite challenging. There was a lot of people there. It was a meeting setting that I wasn't used to, but it was very welcoming. It was non-judgmental, and sit there and just listen, and they say, want to join the committee? And I went, okay, what's a committee? What do I do? They say, oh, you just go the committee meets once a month. There's no obligation, there's no this, there's no that, there's no pressure, basically. So the way that I was invited in, was very welcoming. And over time, I got interested on the subject matter that we're talking about. They were talking about mental health services and how the NHS Health Board of the time and local authority were running it. They were sometimes cutting back services, and there was like a sort of pressure group to kind of go against that, and not just go against, but also work with those organisations. And I just found the structure of a committee and this sense of justice thing. I found that, I got into it, within a year I felt confident enough to sometimes say something, give an opinion. And then I became confident enough to kind of take on the office bearer roles. And ever since then, I've been in some sort of committee because I like that sort of structure setting. And in the most things that I've been in, I'm either the chairperson or the secretary. And those two roles are always one of the crucial ones in terms of how a committee runs and what it does and planning. So I just shared this as a sort of inspirational piece because there's many people out there who'll probably feel things are lacking direction or maybe lacking confidence, and it's just one example of how one opportunity has created a journey which has lasted 25 years.
Harry, apart from acceptance and interest that you had, what would you say made you keep going and persisting?
I developed I developed a skill and interest in administration because I had an office, and the office in my head wasn't organised enough, and I felt maybe this could be tweaked a little bit, and it was tweaked and things changed, and actually maybe it was sort of selfish reason, but I just felt that doing the minutes and things, I felt I had a skill because I was trying out different things. And it was actually talked about a couple of weeks ago or even last week about the eye contact thing. And when you take the minutes, you don't need to look at anybody. So that was a very comfortable thing. And, I learned I don't need to write every single thing that's talked about. You just write about the decisions made or you summarise. And it just seemed like I learned this sort of craft, this sort of trade in a way. And it just kept me going because I thought, well, I'm good at this, why should I leave? Don't get me wrong, there was times where I was thinking, it's just too stressful, I want to get out of here and do something else. But I did have a kind of period of rest sometimes, and I just felt after that period of rest, I just wanted to get back into it again. It was just something to get my teeth into. I just feel that I've learned so much and actually got very good at a lot of different things, including chairing meetings, how to speak publicly, how to word things. I've had experiences where I've said the wrong thing or said it in the wrong way. In my opinion, not others, but my opinion, I felt that. But you just say things and how to manage situations without losing your temper. And I even wanted to do different things. Like, I don't want to be the chair anymore. But if I don't do what I compromise is I'll do the treasurer and do the finance. And I learned a bit of that, and I actually quite enjoyed it. And I still do all these things to this day in different committees. So it's just basically learning all these different skills and the confidence growing because of that.
You said you were 19 at the time. Was this an entirely new experience for you, or do you feel it was, something you'd always been interested in and felt you could connect with, like through school and your personal interests and studies? It's like, was it an extension of that, or was it some entirely new experience that you then discovered was very much in tune with you?
It just felt natural, and a lot of it was down to the way I was brought up. Even though I knew my dad was involved in the union through his work, I didn't know the details. But I do remember conversations where the injustice and fighting against injustice and, just this sort of kind of approach. Don't let anybody kind of grind you down, fight back. And that sort of lingered with me because the company that I was keeping, and it was people doing the same sort of thing. It was just inspirational characters. And I thought, this is something, this makes sense. Even though I did sit at some of the early meetings, I'm going, this is boring, what am I doing here? But I persevered with it because it seemed to have potential. So, but it was totally new, really. The committee thing and all that was totally new. And I don't think my parents actually realised what I did till years and years later. They thought I was going to all these different kind of social groups and just sitting, drinking, having cups of tea and then going home. I'm actually going to these committees and actually making decisions. So, and yeah.
I can hear my dad saying, "Oh, they got you doing all that work and they're no paying you."
Oh, I've had that. Even to this day. It's like, what are you doing all this for? You can actually get a job through the union. You go like, you're not really understanding my position here, but don't get me wrong, there was a time where I actually felt guilty of not actually being employed, but I've kind of, the confidence is built enough to know what am I talking about? I'm actually working for nothing, so I'm actually working. Forget the employment, I actually work and I work very hard. In fact, when I think about it, I hardly stop.
It's a very important distinction.
Sort of like the exact opposite of the Dire Straits song, Money for Nothing. I don't know if that's the title, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but the chicks weren't for free. Yeah, I totally get it. A text has come in saying that they volunteered to help set up a cinema once a month in a local church hall, which was successful, but was very grey pound orientated. So I found it easy to choose films, as it would be films I would never bother to see. In the end, I walked away after 5 years, and it's been going 20 years now. Jules?
Sorry, I just clicked accidentally.
Yeah, I think GR's had to leave us with tech issues, but I've had friends who did similar things. I think when he uses the phrase grey pound, does that maybe like orientated towards senior members of the community?
Apologies, I'm assuming so. That's what it seems to refer to.
Just before you move along, you mentioned a few times what you learned from the experience, and I don't believe you mentioned what you've provided to other people. In an earlier meeting, I remember you sharing that some of the skills you got from this you have learned in other ways to help people in different positions by writing letters, to help them in certain positions, if I am recalling that correctly. So you've provided a lot to the organization, and it's allowed you to provide help to other people too, including to us here.
Thank you for that, Teresa. Yeah, you're right. My enthusiasm has seen me, because of my situation, which, and sometimes I feel actually quite privileged in many ways, although I don't like saying that too much because things can change. But in comparison to a lot of people that have been involved in these committees, there's many people who've got families to look after and they can't dedicate their time to certain things, but I can and I want to. So, and I've done letters and all that recent times for the local community council I've been involved in the last couple of years. And I feel that through my efforts and through providing a Facebook group as well, a notice board for people to have their say and, promote, local organisations, information and business and things like that, and people inquiring about different things. I feel that it's just amazing how the confidence, I know 25 years is a long time, but it has went fast. And I'm just still surprised by the confidence I have. Even if I've had a kind of rotten day, or even if I'm feeling kind of down with, a bit down, under the weather, it's like I can go to these meetings and still have this confidence to say something or contribute something. And that's all because of learning with the right people and being in the right environment. And it just seems like, I'm including myself in this, that a lot of the same people seem to be in all these different committees. It changes over time because, the time period, people passing away, etc., and people moving on. But generally, for a long time, it seems like the same people do all these different committees at the same time, which helps because it's familiarity and it all connects like one big network. There is one thing that texters say, and it is very true. Very strange, but it is true. Sadly, volunteer work is often not seen as contributing to society. For me, it is important to feel useful. It's that status thing. It's like if you don't do a certain thing for money, it means that you're not contributing properly. It means you're not doing things properly. You're a nuisance, you're a drain on society, which I find very strange, but it's just the way that certain societies, particularly British society, to put it plainly, certainly seems to be. If you're not in work, you're nothing but a drain in society, no matter what you do.
Or it's like that thing when you're a child and you're being a wee bit of a pest and getting in some adult's way, and they say, oh, go and help your dad, or go and help so-and-so, go and run an errand for one of your neighbours.
Just to describe the photograph that I shared, wasn't exactly at the beginning of the journey, which would be good, but I just don't have a picture of that. I don't even picture it was taken there. But it is some years ago, it's 2007. And it's actually just before that organisation, the Barton and District Mental Health Forum, merged to become, a bigger one. So it kind of ended that part of the journey. It was just before it. And it's just, find it interesting what I used to wear and the ties I used to wear. I mean, the tie that I wear with a red shirt, and I like that leather jacket, and no, I no longer have it, but yeah. And that was just before I gave up combing my hair as well.
Yeah, for those who don't understand that, your hair gave up on you, rather. You didn't give up on combing your hair. Your hair gave up on needing combing. Is that more close, Harry?
That's actually fair enough, yes. There was a time where I tried different things because I knew it was going, because it went the same way as my dad, and I see that, when it was going, it was just trying to do things with it, while I still had it. But that was just the year that I gave up It just sticks in my head, 2007. And thing is, he's 2025. That's quite a long time since I started getting my head shaved. But yeah, you're right. You are right, though. Positive spin on what I said.
Well, you're a sexy young man anyway, so let's not worry about it. In the text, sadly, voluntary work is often not seen as contributing to society. Well, that's up to us, isn't it? If we feel that other people aren't seeing it as a contribution, we have to work that within our own brains to realise how important it is. We don't need that kind of validation from anybody else but ourselves. We know we're doing good things and we know we're useful. And that's what that same texter says. For me, it's important to feel useful. And they also say bringing up children is not valued as it should be. So there's lots of things in our society that we get the impression that people won't value you for. But really, we have to work that within our own heads and value ourselves.
The next post is from London Autism Group Charity. Well, it's a charity organisation. London Autism Group Charity is a new charity that aims to support the autism community of London and surrounding counties, based in the UK. And what they shared is the following. What a brilliant time we had today, supporting people and socialising at our Ealing Community Cafe in St Andrew's Church, Mount Park Road. Thank you to all of the volunteers for your brilliant help and to everyone who came along. See you next time. Details of all our community cafes can be found on our website, www.londonautismgroupcharity.org/community cafes. And they've shared photographs of the community cafe as well. What's people's thoughts? Have they heard about this? The next post is from Rachel Dorsey, Autistic SLP LLC, a consulting agency, an autistic speech-language pathologist, she, her. And what she's shared is the following in a presentation. I've grown restless and bored with current autism discourse in the field of speech-language pathology. It is clear that my field's understanding of autism only deepens when a solidly level 2 autistic professional lays it out clearly. So I'll be that autistic, take one for the team, and sit with the discomfort and pride of speaking on behalf of my autistic clients. The brain-body disconnect the non-speakers repeatedly speak to is real. Not only that, but it has fallout all across the autism spectrum throughout all domains. Yes, oral speech, but also social pragmatic, socio-emotional, and cognitive linguistic. I have the clear clinical examples. I have the clear personal examples, and I finally know how to describe them in language accessible to SLPs. Given all I know, I deeply fear what might happen to a generation of autistic kids if the field of SLP continues to not take the brain-body disconnect seriously. With that being said, for all the fear I have more excitement for the potential of generations of autistic kids if the field of SLP does shift towards taking it seriously. You think I'm exceptional? You haven't seen anything yet. These kids are wild in the best of ways. Speech-language pathology could use some good right now. Autism especially could use some good right now. If we pull this off, if the recognition and gradients of the brain-body disconnect are taken seriously, it would be the biggest comeback the field has had in decades. And everybody loves a good comeback. What's your thoughts?
What is this brain-body disconnect?
I'm thinking, and I'm only guessing here, that it's people that don't speak. But I may be wrong.
Okay. A speech-language pathologist, an SLP, encounters a brain-body disconnect, in inverted commas, when they perceive a disruption in the brain's ability to send the correct signals to the muscles involved in speech, a condition most notably described as apraxia of speech. So, in layman's terms, it's a disconnect between our brains forming words and then our body being able to vocalize those words through the function of our muscles and organs. So the premise is that it's being ignored, that some of us cannot vocalize in certain circumstances or possibly at all, because it is theorized that there is no connection from the brain that tries to create the language to the body that tries to then form it and make it voluble.
Yeah, thanks, Jules. That makes sense. It's a disconnect between brain and body in reference to speech. It's just my initial reaction is, are the brain and body ever disconnected? But in these cases they are, not physically, but in some communication capacity, yeah.
I think what you said there is important, not physically. So it's a metaphor, the disconnect. We can't just take this literally and say that somebody's brain isn't wired to their mouth. But what we can say is that the pathways from the brain don't necessarily match up in the best possible way for us to be able to control those parts of our body. We come across dyspraxia where people are falling over their feet, don't we? Is it dyspraxia or is it apraxia? There's lots of axias, aren't there?
Yeah, I think that's dyspraxia, and of course there's dyslexia. Yeah, I'm just curious about other diversions or divergences in modes of communication in respect to this.
Yeah, it's the speaking thing again, isn't it? It's like if you don't speak at all, or if you speak in a certain way, like you speak slowly or slower, for whatever reason, it's like you're not taken as seriously as you should be. It's this sort of prejudice, this sort of assumption. And that's what I'm getting from this, is that that's still out there, as we will be aware of.
This might be on the periphery of this topic, but I think there's such a wide variety of speech differences, things that might be an issue, might not be an issue with autistic children and even adults. And I did a quick search, and there's this, I don't know if it's a stereotype, that some autistic boys and men have very high-pitched voices, and that some autistic women and girls have lower than regular pitched voices, or some of us have monotone voices. But I did a search, and speech language pathologists often try to change the pitch of the autistic child's voice. I don't know any adults in it. And I haven't decided on what I think about it, but I think my voice is lower now than it was. Even as an adult who owned a home and answered the phone, back when you had a home phone and telemarketers were calling it dinner time, they would ask if my parents were home, and I would say, much to the delight of my children, "Oh no, my parents aren't home right now. Goodbye." But I wonder, because I worry about it every day. I do think I was not taken seriously a lot, or underestimated a lot. I know it's coming out of the blue, but I don't know what I would do if I had a child with a high-pitched voice. I don't know if it's part of this thing that you want to fix or not. And I know I'm off topic on this post. It just made me think of it.
I was just going to say, it's curious though, certain politicians were trained to lower their voices, especially women like Margaret Thatcher and even Nicola Sturgeon, former Scottish First Minister. I always noted that I used to go high pitch when I was very excited, almost to the point of losing consciousness, like I wasn't breathing correctly. And I can see it in a lot of Scottish people when they get quite animated, creative Scots. They really do go up in the register.
When I worked at the newspaper and had increasingly senior roles, I was trained within an inch of my life. Like, it was humiliating, the amount of voice coaching that I received there.
There's no such thing as off topic here. Whatever leads us to think about something else is relevant to the autistic people listening to us. If we think about voices in society, a conventional range and a conventional way of speaking, expressing, the sing-song, the way of moving from one pitch to another is part of a social conditioning, a social belonging that to some degree we all learn. But I agree that often autistic people are outside those parameters. They might be much lower in one range and in other circumstances use very high ranges. So instead of limiting themselves to a middle range with little variation, they might go all the way from one side to the other. And here's what we have to wonder. Is it us that needs to conform and change, or is it the society around us that needs to accept a large range of difference? In most situations that we have, if we do not fit ourselves to what is expected around us, we end up being the loser. We mask. We work out different ways of finding how to be acceptable. We train ourselves. It's a hard one, you know. If it really is the nub of what we're dealing with autism, are we supposed to accept our nature and what's natural to us and run with that, which might in certain circumstances make us unacceptable and disable us and put us at disadvantage? Or are we to mask up and bend ourselves to the society around us? And this is a negotiation all human beings have to make. But for us, it's a bigger set of adjustments.
Yeah, it's like living in two worlds, or multiple worlds. You know, one of the first things I heard when post-diagnosis online was this, I think it was Pete Warnby who said that he felt like he didn't speak the same language as everyone else. It's like when you go to a foreign country and don't know the language. You're there, you're existing, you're doing things with people, but you're not communicating in the same language. So you have to find other ways of being with people.
The next post is from the autistic teacher. Public figure, autistic and proud, sharing insight and understanding to help the autistic community, based in the UK. And what they've shared is a presentation called Dancing with Sun Fairies, Visual Stimming. As a child, I spent endless hours memorised by the world around me, captivated by what some might call little things. I remember sitting by a sunlit window, watching specks of dust dance in the light. I called them sun fairies, and reached out as if to touch their magic. To an outside observer, perhaps this looked odd or detached, but to me, it was a vivid world of wonder, a space where I felt connected and at peace. This experience is what many know as visual stimming. For those of us who are autistic, stimming, short for self-stimulatory behaviour, can encompass various sensory experiences that help us regulate our emotions and feel more at ease. Visual stimming, specifically, involves engaging deeply with a visual stimuli, whether it's watching dust float in sunbeams, staring into a kaleidoscope, or being captured by fluid movements of water. These visual experiences bring a soothing sense of calm and order to a sometimes overwhelming world. Number 1, hand flapping. Rapid movement of hands in front of the face or at the sides, creating a blur of motion. 2, spinning objects. Watching the continuous motion of objects like spinning tops, fans or wheels can be memorising. Colour patterns. Number 3, colour patterns. Enjoying or staying at colourful patterns such as kaleidoscopes, rainbows, or even vibrant screensavers. Number 4, shiny objects. Observing reflections or lights bouncing off shiny surfaces like mirrors, metal, or water. Number 5, light patterns. Watching lights flickering such as holiday lights, fireworks, or sunlight filtering through leaves. Number 6, repetitive movements. Repeatedly watching activities like a pendulum swinging or windshield wipers moving back and forth. Number 7, water. Gaze fixating on flowing water, waves, or the ripples on a pond for the calming visual effect. Number 8, drawing or doodling. Creating or looking at repetitive designs or mandalas. Number 9, screensavers or animations. Enjoying looped animations that have smooth, flowing movements. Number 10, visual tracking. Engaging in tracking moving objects like bubbles floating or birds flying. For many autistic individuals, the world is a sensory symphony, sometimes harmonious, sometimes overwhelming. Visual stimming acts as both anchor and escape. By focusing on specific, consistent visual patterns or movements, we can tune out chaotic sensory input and regain a sense of control and comfort. These visual engagements help regulate emotions, reduce anxiety, and even enhance concentration. The beauty of visual stimming lies in its simplicity and accessibility. It's not about spacing out or being unresponsive. It's about deeply engaging with a sensory experience that brings profound joy and peace. So the next time you see someone staring intently at rainbows, rippling water, or even dust in a sunbeam, know that they might be immersing themselves in a world that's rich and meaningful. They are not just watching, their souls are dancing with sun fairies, just like mine did, and still do today. Understanding these perspectives is key to embracing neurodiversity. Each stem holds the promise of sanity, one visual delight at a time. What's people's thoughts?
Amen. I'm staring at a bag, a Ziploc bag filled with water hanging from an invisible string on a hook in the ceiling. And above it, there's a little fairy. I put them there. Still, I'm not shy about this whole thing.
I remember driving my friend home once in my car and went off on one with a scintilla of dust floating in the sunlight in my windscreen, and he said, "Mate, pay attention to the road, we don't want to crash here, you going off on your little rabbit hole here."
I'm fortunate to live near a small, beautiful little river, and I often walk along, stand on the bridge, and stare into the depths and watch the repetitiveness of the water. And it doesn't just take me away, it completely fills me. And it's a lovely thing to do when you need to meditate, to de-stress. Use your strength by finding these visual stims.
It's kind of like letting go. And also, I was thinking, whenever I hear these things, I love these things, but also preface it with not everyone goes this route. You know, some people work in another way with things, maybe similar ways, but not quite. There's an artistic feel to this, a creative thing, that a certain response in certain people. And so it may not be universal, and the poster said that many in the autistic community do this, but it is that kind of letting go and disengaging.
I feel like it's the stimming that's left to you when you can't necessarily stim. The number one is hand flapping, though, and probably you would, if you were masking, you wouldn't do it. But I have started alone at home to do physical stimming again. But I think a lot of the items on the list are ways you can stim unnoticed.
Yeah, number one is physical as well. I sometimes find when I'm being quite expressive verbally or mentally even, I want to get up and dance almost, and I noticed this in some of Jules's presentations, and it's in with a lot of autistic people, is this discomfort in having to sit still somewhere, so to get up and move around as if, to enact, to act out what you're expressing.
Well, I used to, and I talked with my sister about this on Friday night. I used to spin a lot, just spin myself around. And then I had one that other people I needed adults for. I loved them to hang me upside down by my ankles.
Oh no, hanging by the ankles, that was like torture when I was a kid. It was good to see the pendulum there. My grandfather used to mend watches, and he had a big grandfather clock, and one of my very early memories is fascination with this pendulum swinging.
Thanks, everyone. We need to end that there, unfortunately. Time's almost up. But thanks, everyone, for taking part tonight. It was a great conversation. It was very varied, very, intense at times, but very beautiful, dare I say, in other times as well. So thanks a lot for that. And of course, thanks to the people that have shared these posts that we've talked about tonight. These are the ones that bring the conversation, or at least it gives us something to start the conversation on. So many thanks. So this is Harry's Facebook for Sunday the 5th of October 2025, which is part of the Spectrum Voices Conversations, which is here every Sunday, 5:55 PM to 7:30 PM, every Sunday, UK time. So look forward to doing it next time. And now I'll hand over to Jules. Thank you.
Thanks, Harry. I rely on this 555, and it's lovely to have you sharing these posts and creating these conversations for us. Thank you very much. Now it's time for us to consider, in an open meeting, Autistic Radio and Autistic Association, the charity that we have for ourselves. This week, I want to mention